Good afternoon, everyone. And again, welcome to the Cade Museum for this June 8th meeting of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. Hi, Lori. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Collette, your Sergeant at Arms. We ask that you please silence your cell phones. And if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, we ask that you register your participation. Send us an email to info@rotarygainesville.org. RotaryGainesville.org is the website. Info@rotarygainesville.org is the email. If you're joining us via Zoom and you're one of our guests during the meeting, please register your participation in the chat. We will make sure that we have you as attending today's meeting. We get started as we do each and every week with a joke, a song, and the pledge. Here he is, Pete and Wall.
Well, we only have a few weeks left in the Rotary year, and so I thought I'd change the pace a little bit. I know that people are disappointed in my jokes, and so I thought that I would try impressions. So how many people remember Red Skelton, Freddie the Freeloader? Okay, no. Okay. All right, so this is Freddie the Freeloader. Oh, hey, my goodness, a little worm. Oh, a little worm. Hello, little worm. How are you? You are? Oh, well, that's wonderful. Would you be my friend? You would? Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, moving along. Next week, we'll do Ed Sullivan. We're going to sing America the Beautiful today. Oh, join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete. And now for our invocation, live and in person today, please welcome Lori Vidal.
Okay, if you would just work with me here now as I go to pray, I'm going to impersonate a pastor, okay? Because I know I don't look like one up here, so which is kind of a good thing, isn't it? But let's pray together. Father, we thank you for another beautiful day, an opportunity to live in a town that we deeply care about. And I thank you for the much needed rain that we've had to refresh our land and satisfy the soil. As we gather again to enjoy one another, we do ask you to give us the focus, the ability to think well, so we can commit ourselves as a club to endeavors that support truthful enterprises, meeting true needs. May we plan and support those opportunities to serve in our community that are fair, building goodwill, and truly benefiting others in need. Help us to follow through as well, willingly doing all we can to do what we say. Bless us now as we meet, I pray, in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Lori. You may be seated. Unless you're visiting us, then remain standing. Seeing no guests or visiting Rotarians, we'll turn the meeting right over. He's in countdown mode. This is 3, then 2, then 1 to end the Rotary year. Please welcome your president until the end of this month, Matthew Brady.
Thank you. We get to shake again. All right. Does not feel like countdown mode. The gremlins on the sound machine have been kicking our butt today. I'm just going to tell you. So all of a sudden the cord shrunk. things were unplugging on their own. Wes and I are digging around. So, you know, it is what it is. Got to love technology, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Quick announcement for TJ. Friday, service opportunity again. Assemble food pallets at Bread of the Mighty. It's 9 to 11. It's a great little workout there in the warehouse. Good little sweat. And, you know, when you do that, you can be putting together an impact for several hundred people in the community just in a couple of hours of putting that food together that goes out and is distributed. So if you can, reach him. There's also a registration on DACDB that you can sign up for that. So 9 to 11 this Friday if you can do that. Zakia, I saw you. Where are you sitting? I'm right here in the back. So if you do not know Zakia, you have missed out greatly. All right. She is one of our first dual Rotarians, dual member with Rotaract and our club when Jenny implemented that membership type. She has been a multi-year president of Rotaract and basically a Rotary superstar in her early Rotary career. Very active in all things with wild game feasts, etc. She's done tremendous work professionally, and she has an amazing opportunity. So she is leaving in here in just a matter of days or a week or so, and she is going to join the San Diego Theaters as Assistant Director of Operations. And I just wanted to say how much we're going to miss her in the community, in the club, and I just appreciate you, and I just want to give you a round of applause here. She's not moving, so I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna give her one of the coveted coins, unless you're willing to come up here. So Rotary opens opportunities. It's been an amazing opportunity to get to know you, and I got up here and forgot my coin. So thank you. You don't have to. Okay.
He always wants me to give a speech. Just thank you guys so much. Most of you guys saw me become a member in 2019, but you welcomed me into this club way before that. So thank you so very much. To some people, I'm just a friend on a Tuesday meeting that you see every once in a while. To others, I'm a friend, but to others, I've become family. So thank you so much for being there for me throughout the last 4 years, and hopefully the San Diego Rotary Club will be just as nice. Thanks.
I'm sure the club will be good, but I'm not sure that it'll be as great as this club. So just so you know what your expectations are. So, having trouble. All right. So I am now going to ask Dalton Baker and Mike Conroy if you'll step forward, please. Stand out front here on the camera. Hide me. I'm fine with that. So right there. There you go. So, fellow Rotarians, as president of the Rotary Club of Gainesville, it's my privilege and pleasure to formally induct and welcome a new member into our service organization. The person who stands before us today has indicated their willingness, interest, and determination to help enhance the quality of life in our shared community, state, nation, and world. Through their involvement in the Rotary Club of Gainesville and by extension, their involvement in Rotary International, they will have this opportunity. I now ask all Rotarians in this room to show support of this new member by standing. Their sponsor and fellow Rotarians standing now in support have indicated their willingness to extend the good works and service of Rotary by inviting this community leader to join us. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise. The Rotary Club of Gainesville has been serving the community continuously since 1918. By coming before us today, you have shown your commitment to helping continue the work of Rotary by embracing the ideal of putting service above self. And you've done so very quickly and very much strongly already in your early time. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you as a member of the Rotary Club of Gainesville. I encourage you to become an active Rotarian as you already have and to become fully involved in the service and fellowship activities of this organization. I now present you with Rotary Pin and membership certificate. Congratulations and welcome to the Rotary Club of Gainesville, newest member, Dalton Baker. He was very relieved when I said, yes, another round of applause. He was very relieved when I said that, Craft Talk will come later. So it's always a nice. Well, without further ado, I'm now going to hand over back to Zoom, Jenny Van Hart, to introduce today's Zoom speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Lisa has been the coordinator of the Rotary Fellowships program for the past 3 years. Her position is a key member of the service and engagement team, primarily responsible for supporting Rotary leaders in their networking and service goals. Before joining Rotary in early 2018, Lisa was professional development coordinator for a national STEM education nonprofit. Here she developed and delivered innovative professional development to educators and supported educators through site support visits across the nation. Lisa most recently was a state specialist for the Arkansas 4-H youth program. She has an additional 10 years of experience in health and STEM education, and she holds a Master's of Education in Instructional Technology. In Lisa's spare time, she enjoys kayaking, hiking, camping, and of course, watching the Cubs. Her and her husband live in Chicago with their yellow lab, Fiona, and Siamese cat, Sinatra. And I just want to mention that Ed Book is on the call, and he actually was one of I think he might have even started the fellowship for pins in Rotary. So welcome, Ed. It's good to have you on the call, and over to you, Lisa.
Hi, thank you for having me. This is my first hybrid meeting, so it's pretty exciting. I don't know why, but seeing people in person in a room and your music's made me, more nervous. I haven't done a presentation to live in what, year and a half now. I welcome you. Can everybody hear me fine? I know we were having a little issues earlier. Let me make sure on that. I don't see any no's in the chat.
You're good.
Okay.
Have you loud?
Great. I am visiting you here from downtown Chicago. It is 79 degrees here, but it's kind of humid. So, it's feeling a little bit back by my roots in Arkansas. That's where I moved from 3 years ago. But now I work here at Rotary International. So I was asked to speak about Rotary Fellowships, and I saw Ed's name pop up. I'm like, oh, I know him. And a little bit about action groups. I'm over the fellowships, and I have been over the friendship exchange program too at Rotary. So if you have questions about any 3 of those, they are all in our portfolio and my team's work. All right, so I'm going to do a short presentation with slides up in the chat. If you have access to that, I've put a couple of links to the websites that I'm referring to make it easier if you want to kind of click through. We do try to house all of our information on those websites, so it's easy to find. Let me share my screen. All right. So fellowships and action groups. I'm going to start with action groups. My coworker Zuhal is over those, but she is on vacation today. So I'm going to present to you on that for her. Basically a little bit of a who, what, and why. These groups are recognized and organized internationally, just like fellowships are. They are led by Rotarians, Rotaractors, and Peace Fellows, but anybody can be a member in an action group. What you're going to find is going to be the same thing for fellowships. That was a policy change that was made in January of 2020 by our board. So it's a way for both of these programs to allow non-members in to get a feel for Rotary. If that is of any interest to some of your friends, maybe you've tried to get them to join your club, but maybe, you know, they're not ready yet, but, you know, maybe you're in the Wine Fellowship or the Stamps Fellowship or the Rotary on Pins Fellowship, and that's something that interests them as well. What action groups are for and what they do is they help clubs and districts plan and implement large-scale projects. So it's a lot about service and projects for action groups. So kind of what the name implies in that, taking action. Why they do this? Because they have relevant expertise and experience. So they're always looking to recruit expertise. Like there's the WASH action group. And so they are, you know, other fellowships are needing, you know, child and maternal health experts, you know, doctors, etc. Currently, there are around 27,000 members in action groups. There are 27 groups that are officially recognized. They represent and come from about 150 countries, and the average size of an action group is 710. Through their action group memberships, members and participants connect with like-minded individuals from around the world. They meet and network with them in person during Rotary events, activities, and they initiate partnerships. Both of these programs are meant to be international. They report up the chain directly to Rotary International. So it's not, you know, it doesn't go through your district. You know, like the Friendship Exchange program is a district program where you may have received communications from somebody in your district about going on an exchange. But both of these programs report directly to RI. And so they are meant to be there. When you start a new action group or fellowship, you have to meet certain qualifications. So, you know, for fellowships, that is be representative of 5 different countries and have 25 members. Here's how to get involved and work with action groups if you're interested. Here's that website again. Again, there's a ton of information on there, lots of links, examples of bylaws that action groups have, the annual report. If you are interested in an action group or a fellowship, you'll find out is that you will want to directly contact them. We can always coordinate that, Zuhal or I, like people still reach out sometimes through email and are looking to connect, but all of those groups are listed on both of the pages that I'm mentioning, our web pages. And so there are links to those groups. It's a good time if you have a chance is to kind of click through them and see what activities they do. Sometimes they have a Facebook page, sometimes they have a web page. It just depends. Okay, and I'll ask questions at the end. So if you have questions about, since that way I won't be sharing my screen at the same time, then I can see your questions in the chat, or if you have them live, then we can answer those. So let's go ahead and do fellowships. There's that web link again for you. What are Rotary Fellowships? These are groups of any interested individuals. Again, anybody can join. And they rotate around recreational hobbies, sports, vocations, and some are history and culture. Here is a little snippet from the bottom of our website, and that is where you can find resources. A lot of times I get contacted to speak like I am today, but if you're in a pinch and you need to do a presentation for someone, there is the PowerPoint that's listed there on the 4th one below. Below that also is a video. I believe I sent that to Jenny in case she wanted to send that out. It's a good promo video. It was just put on Rotary International's Facebook page the other day, since this is June's Fellowship Month, since that's why you have me here. And it's good. It includes an overview of both the fellowships, ICCs, and I believe the other one is the Friendship Exchange on that video. So check that out if you want. It's not very long. There's also a flyer there at the top and our annual report. Currently, we have 90 plus Rotary Fellowships. It's changing every day because I have 2 right now I'm trying to approve. We've been very busy. I don't know if the word is just more out or if the pandemic has kept everybody on the internet and they have found fellowships, but the second bullet there is all the ones that we have approved this year. And so it's really growing. In the past, maybe 2 to 3 a year, but now we're looking at 10, 15 a year. So I won't read those to you. You can see those there. Those are the newest ones. Again, any interested individual, that's a new update from January 2020, like I said. So invite your friends and family to join a fellowship of some of your interests. Here are a few examples. Again, there's 90 plus fellowships, so I didn't want to bore you with that many PowerPoint slides, I promise. So here are a few examples: the Cycling to Serve Fellowship, the Wine Fellowship. Some have chapters, so some of them, they're all international, and some of them just report directly to their international fellowship, but some of them break out into chapters in your areas. So here's an example of Rotary Means Business. I drew a little arrow there for you. You can see that you can go to local chapters. You can see if one is in your area. You could start one in your area. And they are kind of like if you haven't heard of them, they are kind of like Rotary Started, to where they're a group of business people that get together and they try to support each other. So, you know, you might buy a car from someone in the group that owns a dealership, or you might buy an RV from somebody that, you know, owns an RV fellowship. If you're into heavy metal or know anybody, we have one of those. I wanted to show, you know, kind of the vastness of the topics that we have. Felix has a great story. The founder, he started on a youth exchange and has now made it up to becoming a full-fledged Rotarian. And then he kind of discovered that there were other Rotarians that liked metal music, so he started a fellowship as well. Here are the things I was talking about for people that want to start a new fellowship. We've tried to really streamline the process and not make it as difficult. So they have to have those 25 potential members from at least 5 countries. There's an application process that's digital. We make the proposed bylaws so that if they want to just follow those, it's easier on them instead of recreating the wheel. And they supply us with a list of proposed officers and their responsibilities. So it's not too difficult. Then I am going to see if this website pulls up so I can give you a little overlook. Hopefully my screens keep sharing. One more second. Sorry, it's usually not this slow. There we go. So this is our fellowships page. Again, you can find, and everybody wants to see the list, right? Some people ask me to send a list, but we keep the most updated list on our fellowships page. So there's a little bit of how do I join, how do I form, and explore. So you can see anything from 4x4 vehicles to jazz to the bee fellowship. I mean, beard and mustache. If you are into that, we have a fellowship for it. There's photographers, quilters, scouting, flying. I think fishing's pretty big in Florida where you are for a fellowship. I know it's big in Florida, period. The travel and hosting, we have several, like a home exchange, travel and hosting, the RV fellowship, so a lot of travel if you're interested in that. We have a new wildlife conservation and yoga, etc. And there are those resources that I talked about before. So I've seen this flashing. I'm going to stop my share. All right. How many new on average fellowships are approved? Oh, I kind of answered that earlier, but yes, it used to be about 3 or 4. It took longer, but now that we've streamlined the process and given them templates, we are at one point this year, I had over 35 applications. Some of them have to kind of go back to the drawing board. They can't be political in nature. They also can't duplicate another fellowship. So let's say we have a jazz fellowship and we have a music fellowship. Well, they just have to make sure that they say that they have enough difference that they're not replicating the other fellowship. How long does it take to get a fellowship approved? Really just depends. I would say the average is a couple of months. I've had some shorter, I've had some longer. We also work on, they have to be brand compliant. We make a logo, work back and forth on the naming and that kind of thing. So it just depends. You need an R&B fellowship. Okay. What would not be approved? What would stop a fellowship suggestion being approved? Kind of along those lines of, you have to comply to anything that's an RI policy. So I've been working with a group that's had a district organized group, and the naming wasn't conventional. It wasn't something that we could approve just because of licensing reasons. And so it's taken a little bit. The group has come up with a new name that took a little bit of an extension. Anything political or religious is, I mean, that's just part of our values as Rotary International anyways. But for the most part, it's a lot easier. Action groups is tougher because they need to have their experts and they need to be applying and doing larger scale service. So I can't answer to that. How many fellowships are there again? Again, they're 90 plus. Like it drops off. We had a few that fell off this year, and then we also have gained those 10 or so back. What are some of the best rejected fellowships? That's a great question. I don't know if we want to call them rejected. I have some of them though that will send me an email. I'll send them the information about applying, and they're just still sitting. I make a folder in my inbox for all of them, and so but sometimes I never hear back. And then 3 years later, they contact me. You're like, oh yeah, Lisa, I thought we were going to approve this fellowship. I'm like, yeah, I need a few other things from you, remember, per my last email. So let's see. They have some weird names, like men's is not weird, but that's one I have sitting there. Blockchain. There's many times I do have to go to the internet and Google it because it's not something that I'm familiar with here in the US. How do you recommend we recruit people from other countries? Great. So if you're in a fellowship and you're thinking about recruiting from that direction, I think that's what the question is. And it depends probably of what, and it's supposed to be international. Facebook is a huge one, social media, because you're trying to connect to others on the RI website. If you've heard of discussion groups, some people start a discussion group and they try to gather interest that way. Another thing that is an opportunity is coming up is Rotary Convention, right? That is a huge event, normally in person, of course, where fellowships get together and action groups. If you've ever been, they set up in the House of Friendship. If you are registered for the convention virtually this year, we are having our second virtual House of Friendship where they will have virtual booths. And that is the greatest advertisement. And it's one of the greatest things that we can give and offer to fellowships and action groups. They get a booth for free. They don't have to pay for it. Not everybody gets one when we're live and in person because it only goes by how much space we have. Some convention spaces have a bigger House of Friendship, so we can offer more booths, and others just have smaller ones. And so that is the perfect place to advertise. Again, keeping websites up to date so that they're linked to our page so people know how to get involved. The other thing, we have a shared booth space at convention, when we're in person, to where even if they're not approved yet, but they're looking for members, then they can set up in our shared booth space for fellowships and advertise that way. Good question.
If anyone has a question here at the Cade Museum, our live in-person attendance today. Looks like we have a hand raised in the front before we get to him. This is Tom, the Sergeant at Arms. Lisa, what is in terms of numbers of folks, the biggest fellowship group we have?
That's a good question. We ask them to report that annually. And I have one group that says they have 25,000, but they are mostly, online and a Facebook page. And then I say the wine reports that they have about 3,500. So I should have had the slide like Zuhal has for that, so I can answer you directly. I'd have to pull up the report because it changes from year to year. But I would say on average, somewhere around, I would say small groups are around 50 to 100, big groups are around 4,000 to 5,000.
Go ahead and state your name and your question, please. Look right at the camera over here.
Hello, where's the camera? Where's the camera? Oh, hello, camera. I was active in the Rotary Home Exchange Fellowship back in the last century, and around 9/11, that sort of went away. And the Rotary Home Exchange Fellowship, at least, I received an email that said that it was being melded into homeexchange.com, and I've joined that, and I've been active in that ever since. But how many, do you happen to know off the top of your head how many people are involved in the Rotary Home Exchange Fellowship? Is it as big as it used to be, or is it?
That's a good question. That makes sense. We reach out once a year and have people by email send us their annual report numbers. And so I could go look and see what number that they reported. It's easy to get a hold of me too. You can send me an email directly, lisa.cook@rotary.org. So I could pull that information offhand, off the top of my head, without closing all these windows that I have you beautiful people up on. I can't get to it right now. But that makes sense because I hear from them. They report their officers. They keep that website updated. But you're right, it is more melded into there. And I haven't seen them like at a convention or our virtual conventions either. You spoke about Home Exchange. What's the other one? Where they go to. There's another one. Hold on. I have a great story about one where they go to each other's homes and not just exchange homes, but they're looking for a place to stay. There was a article in the Rotary magazine where a lady needed to go to the Mayo Clinic, and so she had her daughter with her. So she reached out to the fellowship. She wasn't a member of the fellowship, but she was a Rotarian, and they were easy. They made that happen for her, put her daughter up for a place there, and it was a very kind story.
Lisa, we've spoken a lot already about the fellowships. What about the Rotary action groups in terms of maybe the largest Rotary action group in terms of participation or participants? And then what's the largest fundraising project that has been generated from the Rotary action groups, if you have that information?
I know on the slides in my notes it told me, which I think it's Child and Maternal Health is the largest action group. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Now, as far as fundraising, I do not know. Again, I have the general information on action groups. Yeah, you're not going to want to wait on me probably to find that. But there is one that is much bigger than the rest because she said in her notes that they all average about 700 except for one of them. And it was in initials. And sometimes it's hard for me to remember when they have like 5 different initials for their acronym. Sorry.
It's okay. Back out to the crowd. We have another member with a question here at the Cade Museum.
Hi, Brendan Shortley. Interesting discussion and really great to explore. And I'm interested in it. If we wanted to do that, obviously the application process is one step, but before that, 5 countries minimum. How would you recommend we approach that challenge if we were already preconceiving, a topic that we wanted to start a group on?
That's great. It depends on what time of the year. If it were right now, we have all the booths set for our convention for the virtual part. Otherwise, that would be a great opportunity. And if you're looking more down the road that you want to get your ducks in a line and it would be closer to convention next year, that's a good place to try to apply for a breakout session, host in that shared booth space. But I would say, starting a Facebook page or a website that you can share that says in formation, like forming a group or proposed fellowship, we're okay to let any of that go up, so that you can start recruiting members. And then I would look at maybe other fellowships that were maybe the same genre. Like if it was a hobby, find other hobby fellowships, send them the officers an email, possibly advertise on their Facebook page and say, hey, I love your fellowship. This looks great. We are also trying to form one. If you'd like to reach out, so you kind of start networking and finding people that way. Also, the discussion groups is another place where you can go. It's got its holdbacks. It's not as advanced, I would say, as sharing of Facebook. Also, there's a LinkedIn page that people go to for Rotary.org where you could get your name out as well. And then also just shoot me an email and let me brainstorm with you, because I can devise a topic. I know several of the officers of fellowships, and then I could probably put you in touch with other people to get it going.
We have a question in chat for you from Jenny. Well, we'll go to Aaron Henderson first. For the action groups, this is a chicken or the egg question. Do we identify a local project, then join an action group, or join an action group first, then develop a project?
It's a great question. I would say that you probably would already have been working on projects around that topic, because you're going to need experts and you need to prove that you are doing work and you're making a change and not just being an advocate for it. So that's one of the biggest things is, maybe you had a pet project out there already and you're wanting to lock it up with a Rotary International master brand signature and really start advertising it and then being able to attend convention as an international action group. Then you would have wanted that background and those experts tied in and to show off what you had been doing and making those projects, in real time.
Again, if you're here at the Cade Museum, you have a question for Lisa, please raise your hand and Don Bugos will bring you the wireless microphone that we have here on site. I'm going to ask a question that everyone in the room has wanted to have asked. On behalf of one of our members who spoke earlier today, Pete, is there a comedy fellowship group that he can get some great new material from?
That's amazing, because yes, we just approved a comedy and laughters fellowship. So if he needs new material, it sounds like his current material is great, then he could reach out to them. Maybe he could
Pete,
get them
stand
some
up and take a
material.
bow. Where's Pete? We do have another question from someone here.
This has all been so interesting. My name's Helen Gilstrom, and I'm in the Fiber Art Fellowship. I've been there for many years. This last year, it was just fun because as everyone was cooped up, people emailed more. The bulletins were larger and the pictures were bigger. And this group sends out a bulletin at least 4 times a year. We have an annual meeting, but the focus is to put together whatever you want to create. It goes to an exhibit in Fellowship Hall at the convention, and then we sell it. The money goes to polio. So for those of us who aren't going to convention, we usually ask someone from the club who is to take something like Jenny did all the way to Europe for me. Thank you. But there's also, because it's international, lots of times there's someone who lives in that city you can send something to, and then they can take it there, because it's just difficulty to get whatever they're doing. So right now, the focus is making things for Houston for next year, and everything is coming out. So it's nice to hear what other Rotarians are doing, not only personally, but also they always talk about what they're doing in their group. And so it's like everything else in Rotary. It's like you get back so much more than you even put in. So anyhow, I'm glad you do this and you keep it going, and thank you.
We now have a question from Jenny Van Hart.
Okay.
What fellowship application made you laugh the most when you saw it?
Well, I can't say that the Beard and Mustache Fellowship was not an excellent choice. Okay. And that's one of those that took 4 or 5 years. They had some interest. and it got delayed a little bit because we didn't hear back, but it stayed. It was like they had this small group. I think they may even had a Facebook page already, but they were serious about their beards and mustaches. So we've got them going. I can also say I've been pretty
Just gone
blessed.
silent here in the room, Lisa. I don't know why. We have such a talkative group. They're trying to
Well,
formulate questions, I guess.
I want to say that you are the best group I've ever had. I was just telling Joe the other day that sometimes I end a presentation, nobody asks a question. I'm like, oh. But I also like the testimonial too, because that is true. And I have seen a lot of great stuff during quarantine where people are just talking more. The music fellowship got on and they sang together. I'm sure it didn't match up in timing sometimes with the internet issues, but still they reached out. Sometimes they would only see each other at convention once a year, but this kind of forced people to the virtual world and they actually interacted more. And I'm really blessed, like leaving Arkansas and taking a chance and moving, to a different city and landing this job. It's a lot like what I did when I was in Arkansas, of going and visiting people. And that's what I love doing here, is getting the chance to visit with people like you that are actually out there and doing the work, and then working directly with fellowships, and going to, when I got to go to Hamburg and go to a wine fellowship dinner, it was great. And, the Metalhead Fellowship, it's not my personal taste of music, but still it was a great boat ride. And, we had tons of fun, and it really is a great experience. I get to hear about all the trips that the RV Fellowship is taking, and then, what they've suffered through this year and a half of not being able to get out much. So it's kind of the extra, it's like the dessert of Rotary. I just coined that, so don't write that down. But for me, I think it's pretty cool.
What's been your biggest change personally going from Arkansas to Chicago?
Well, the weather, which I was looking forward to, because it's hot in Arkansas, like humid and is in Florida, and the mosquitoes. So the greatest thing about Chicago is there's no mosquitoes. I don't know how it's possible. I guess they just die because it's cold 6 months out of the year here, but definitely that has been the greatest thing. I live in a high rise now. I've never done that before. It was just something we wanted to do. My husband and I, we kind of took off and wanted to try something new. We used to live right by Cubs Stadium, across the road, and we just moved downtown to the river. So you can move 5 miles and be in a whole different town, it feels like. And I'm kind of a foreigner at Rotary, like with the Southern accent. They're always like, "Who are you?"
We have a question from Buddy Irby, assuming you even follow the Razorbacks.
Oh.
He's asking for a prediction. Will Arkansas win the College Baseball World Series?
Hey, one step at a time, one step at a time. I used to be a basketball coach in Arkansas a few decades ago. So no, let's take one game at a time. Great win last night, though.
How about a nice hand, everybody, for Lisa Cook?
Lisa, thank you very much. Being there in Chicago at RI International, I'm sure you know the Rotary theme. I'm sure you may have a coin, but you would not have one as special as the one we have to send to you to thank you for your presentation today. Thank you again. Thank you. Yes. One of the things looking back over this year, and I've talked about it, and I think TJ's done an amazing job in adapting to outdoor type fellowships and service combined fellowship based on the pandemic. But that's been one of the toughest things for me. Is I have in the past, you may know, had a real strong passion, and still do, for fellowship. And I look forward to the days ahead in this next year. And David and I had a long conversation Friday about it, how important to get back safely, and how vital that fun and fellowship aspect is to our club, to the relevance and to the meaning and just for the engagement of our members. So we look forward to that collectively in the days ahead. So, and Pete, I think we can maybe negotiate a deal of paying your membership dues if it'll help with material. So just saying. I love you. Appreciate you, buddy. I couldn't pass up that opportunity. All right. Well, I better shut up now and read today's quote and end the meeting. Rotary changes us and those we serve. I believe we can change the world one life at a time. Paul Harris. Have a great week, fellow Rotarians.